In 1791, something happened in the Caribbean that the most powerful empires on earth had agreed was impossible. The enslaved people of Saint-Domingue rose up. Not a small uprising, not a localized rebellion that could be contained and crushed before it spread. A full-scale revolution that would last 13 years, defeat the armies of France, Spain and Britain, and produce the first black republic in the history of the world. The only successful slave revolution in human history, the moment that proved what the entire architecture of the Atlantic slave trade had been built to prevent anyone from believing. That the people being held in chains were not what the system needed them to be. They were exactly what the system feared they were. But before we go any further, welcomes to Unravel the Moment. This is the channel where we teach the untold truth about history. Not the version on the museum walls, not the version in the textbooks, the version they decided you should never see. If this is your first time here, stay until the end. It only gets darker from here. Now back to Haiti. Saint-Domingue in 1791 was the most profitable colony in the world. The French called it the Pearl of the Antilles. It produced roughly 40% of Europe's sugar and more than half of its coffee. The wealth extracted from that island built banks, funded wars, constructed cities, and made fortunes so vast they shaped the entire trajectory of French economic development. All of it produced by approximately 500,000 enslaved people living under conditions so brutal that the death rate consistently outpaced the birth rate, and the colony had to continuously import more enslaved people from Africa simply to maintain its workforce. The people running this system were not subtle about what it required. The Code Noir, the legal framework governing slavery in French colonies, was explicit about the methods of control. Torture was not an aberration, it was policy. It was the mechanism by which 500,000 people were kept producing wealth for approximately 40,000 colonists, who understood that the entire system would collapse the moment the people inside it decided they had nothing left to lose. On the night of August 14th, 1791, they decided. The revolution began with a ceremony in the forest of Bois-Caymont, a vaudou ceremony that has been mythologized and distorted and used for 2 centuries by people who wanted to frame what followed as something supernatural rather than something human. What it actually was a meeting, enslaved leaders gathering to coordinate what they had been organizing toward. The ceremony was the signal. The revolution was the plan. Within days, plantations were burning across the northern province. Within weeks, the uprising had spread to a scale that the colonial administration could not contain. What followed over the next 13 years was one of the most extraordinary military and political achievements in modern history. Under the leadership of figures including Toussaint Louverture, a man born into slavery who taught himself to read and became one of the most brilliant military commanders of his era. The revolution defeated Spanish forces, defeated British expeditionary forces that lost tens of thousands of soldiers trying to reclaim the colony, and finally defeated Napoleon's army sent specifically to crush the revolution and restore slavery. Napoleon's brother-in-law, Charles Leclerc, arrived in 1802 with the largest naval expedition France had ever assembled. He had specific orders: restore French control, restore slavery, erase what had happened. He failed. Yellow fever, guerrilla warfare, and the absolute refusal of a population that had seen freedom and would not return to what preceded it destroyed his army. Leclerc himself died of yellow fever in November 1802. The remnants of his force retreated, and on January 1st, 1804, Jean-Jacques Dessalines declared the independence of the new nation. He named it Haiti, the indigenous Taino name for the island, a deliberate erasure of the colonial name and a deliberate connection to what had existed before the colonizers arrived. The revolution had won, and the world that had watched it happen immediately began deciding what the punishment would be. The moment Haiti declared independence in 1804, the most powerful nations on earth faced a problem that had nothing to do with Haiti specifically. The problem was precedent. Haiti was not just a Caribbean island that had changed its government. Haiti was proof that the system holding millions of people in bondage across the Americas and the Caribbean was not as stable as the people profiting from it needed it to be. Proof that enslaved people would fight, could win, and had won. Proof that the violence used to maintain slavery was not sufficient to guarantee its continuation if the people inside it decided the cost of resistance was worth paying. Every slave-owning society watching Haiti in 1804 understood this immediately. The United States, whose economy in the southern states was built entirely on enslaved labor, understood it. The British Caribbean colonies understood it. The Spanish-American colonies understood it. France, which still held extensive colonial territories with enslaved populations, understood it most viscerally of all because it was French slavery that had just been defeated. The response was not military. A direct military reconquest had already failed, and the appetite for another attempt was limited. The response was something more sophisticated and more durable. Isolation. Haiti was diplomatically isolated by virtually every significant power immediately after independence. The United States refused to recognize Haiti as a sovereign nation. This was not a minor diplomatic detail. It meant no trade agreements, no diplomatic relations, no access to American markets, no legal framework for commerce between the two countries. The United States maintained this position until 1862, 58 years after Haitian independence, and did so explicitly because American slaveholders lobbied successfully against recognition of a state founded by formerly enslaved people. The message that recognition would send to enslaved people across the American South was the message they were paying their political representatives to prevent. France's approach was different, and in the long run more damaging. In 1825, French King Charles X sent a fleet of warships to Haitian waters. The ships carried guns. They also carried a document. The document offered France's recognition of Haitian sovereignty, something Haiti had been seeking for 21 years, because without it international trade and diplomacy were almost impossible. The price of recognition was 150 million gold francs. To understand what this number meant, the entire Haitian national budget at the time was roughly 3 million francs per year. France was demanding 50 years of the entire national budget as the condition for acknowledging that Haiti existed as a country. The justification was extraordinary in its audacity. The money was described as compensation to French slaveholders for the property they had lost when the slaves freed themselves. The people who had been held in chains, worked to death, tortured as a matter of legal policy, bought and sold as objects for generations. Those people now owed the people who had enslaved them financial compensation for the disruption caused by their liberation. Haiti's President Boya accepted the terms. He had almost no choice. Without French recognition, Haiti remained in diplomatic and economic limbo. The isolation was slowly strangling the country. Recognition came at a price that would strangle it differently and more slowly, but Boya calculated that some form of strangulation was unavoidable and chose the one that at least opened trade routes. To pay the first installment, Haiti borrowed from French banks, at interest. The debt that was supposed to compensate France for the loss of its slaves was funded by loans from French financial institutions that would spend the next century collecting interest on those loans. Haiti paid, and paid, and paid. The final payment was made in 1947, 122 years after the original ultimatum. 3 generations of Haitian people worked and taxed and sacrificed to send money to France as compensation for the crime of no longer being enslaved. And that is before you account for what the debt prevented. Every nation that achieves independence faces the challenge of building institutions from nothing. Roads, schools, hospitals, courts, agricultural infrastructure. The basic architecture of a functioning state that most established nations had built over centuries. New nations have to build it quickly with whatever resources they have available. Haiti in 1804 had additional challenges that most new nations did not face. The revolution had been fought across the entire country. Plantations were burned, infrastructure was destroyed, the colonial administrative apparatus had been dismantled. The educated class, such as it existed in a slave colony, had either fled or been killed. Haiti was starting from a position that most new nations never faced because most new nations were not built by people who had been legally prohibited from literacy for generations. And then France sent the warships. The 90 million gold franc debt, reduced from the original 150 million after negotiation, consumed the resources that should have built Haiti's institutions. Every franc sent to Paris was a franc not spent on a school. Every interest payment to a French bank was a hospital not built. Every generation that paid down the principal of the independence debt was a generation that could not invest in the infrastructure that compounds over time and produces the conditions for economic development. The numbers are not abstract. Economists who have studied the Haiti debt have attempted to calculate what those payments cost in terms of foregone development. The calculations vary, but the conclusions are consistent. The debt extracted from Haiti over 122 years represents a sum that in modern terms runs into the hundreds of billions of dollars when you account for what that capital could have produced if it had been invested in Haiti rather than extracted from it. Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. It has been for most of its existence as an independent nation. The standard explanation offered by people who do not want to examine the historical record is that Haiti's poverty is the result of political instability, corruption, poor governance. These things are real and their effects are real, but they do not exist in a vacuum. They exist in the context of a country that spent its first century paying a debt it should never have owed, while being diplomatically isolated by the most powerful nations on earth. Political instability does not emerge from nowhere, it emerges from conditions, and the conditions in Haiti were shaped decisively by what France demanded in 1825 and what the United States enforced through 58 years of non-recognition. Thomas Jefferson, who wrote that all men are created equal while owning 600 human beings, was president when Haiti declared independence. His administration not only refused recognition, but actively worked to isolate Haiti economically, restricting trade and pushing other nations to do the same. Jefferson wrote privately that the existence of Haiti was a danger to the American South that had to be contained. The man who wrote the Declaration of Independence spent his presidency trying to economically strangle the only country in the hemisphere that had actually applied its principles. The isolation was so effective and so sustained that it became invisible. By the time the debt was paid in 1947, the connection between French extortion and Haitian poverty was buried under a century of narratives about Haitian dysfunction. The punishment had been so thorough and so prolonged that its effects looked like natural conditions rather than imposed ones. Heidegger wrote about thrownness, the idea that human beings are thrown into conditions they did not choose and must navigate a world they did not design. Haiti was thrown into the world of independent nations in chains it could not see, the chains of debt, isolation, and the deliberate hostility of every power that understood what Haitian freedom meant for their own systems. And the chain that is hardest to see is always the one that was fastened before you were born. In 2004, Haiti celebrated the 200th anniversary of its independence. President Jean-Bertrand Aristide made a formal demand to France. He calculated the total value of what Haiti had paid between 1825 and 1947, adjusted for inflation and the interest that had accumulated on the original loans, and arrived at a figure of approximately $21 billion. He demanded France return it. France refused. The French government's position was that the debt had been paid legitimately under a treaty and that no restitution was owed. President Jacques Chirac did not engage seriously with the demand. Aristide was removed from power in a coup 2 months later. The circumstances of the coup and the degree of French and American involvement in it remain disputed. What is not disputed is the timing. The man who demanded $21 billion from France was removed from power 2 months after making the demand. The silence around Haiti's story is not accidental, and it is not historical. It is ongoing. The debt was not widely known outside Haiti and specialist academic circles until 2022, when the New York Times published an investigation called The Ransom that traced the full history of the payments and their consequences. The investigation documented not just the debt itself, but the specific mechanism by which it had been erased from public consciousness, by France, by the international financial institutions that had profited from it, and by a historical narrative that preferred to explain Haitian poverty as a product of Haitian failure rather than international extraction. The investigation caused a brief period of public discussion in France. A government commission was established to study the question of reparations. The commission has not produced binding recommendations. France has not paid anything. The silence operates at multiple levels simultaneously. There is the silence of the historical record, the debt not taught in French schools, not featured in French national narratives about the colonial period, not present in the standard account of what France did in the 19th century. There is the silence of international institutions. The IMF and World Bank have lent Haiti money for development at interest rates that extend the logic of the original debt without naming it as such. And there is the silence of the broader conversation about slavery's legacy that consistently focuses on the cultural and psychological dimensions while avoiding the specific financial transfers that can be calculated and potentially returned. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journals about the responsibility to see things as they actually are, rather than as it is comfortable to see them. He was writing about personal philosophy. But the principle applies to historical reckoning. Seeing Haiti as it actually is requires seeing the debt. Seeing the debt requires seeing France's role in it. Seeing France's role requires seeing the international system that enforced Haiti's isolation. And seeing all of that requires abandoning the comfortable narrative that poverty is what happens to people who are not good enough at being free. Haiti was extraordinarily good at winning its freedom. The revolution it fought was one of the most remarkable military and political achievements in modern history. And what followed was not the result of Haitians failing to build a successful nation. It was the result of the most powerful nations on earth deciding that a successful Haitian nation was something they could not allow. The silence is not ignorance, it is a decision. And the decision has been renewed in every generation since 1804 by every institution that benefits from not examining what was taken and what it produced. The story of Haiti is not a story about the past. It is a story about how the past operates in the present through mechanisms that have been carefully designed to be invisible. The debt was paid in 1947, but the conditions the debt produced did not end in 1947. Infrastructure not built in 1850 is not present in 1950 or in 2024. Institutions not developed because resources were extracted rather than invested do not appear when the extraction stops. Poverty compounds the way debt compounds. It accumulates interest, and the interest accumulates interest, and eventually the original cause is so buried under the weight of what it produced that people stop looking for the cause and start treating the conditions as natural. Haiti is treated as naturally poor, naturally unstable, naturally dysfunctional. The word naturally is doing enormous and dishonest work in every sentence that contains it in relation to Haiti. There is nothing natural about Haiti's condition. There is a very specific, very documented, very calculable history of extraction that produced it. The calculation has been done. The New York Times investigation put figures on it. Economists have put figures on it. Aristide put figures on it and was removed from power 2 months later. The figures exist. The decision not to act on them is also a decision. Every year that France does not engage seriously with restitution is a year in which the decision to extract is renewed by the decision not to return. Inaction in the face of documented historical theft is not neutrality, it is continuation. What does philosophy do with this?